Hey everyone, this is Ken. Welcome to episode 20 of the Grist podcast. As always, I remind you that the views on this particular podcast having to do with business are my own, not those of my employers or those around me. This week, we're going to be speaking about your typical week of business news and some of the things to look out for if you're a business professional. This was a particularly significant week of news, lots of stuff going on. So it's something I focused on with those around me. And I thought it might be useful to do it on this podcast also. So thing number one was it was a huge earnings week. Five of the seven Mag 7 companies had earnings, many of them on Wednesday. And, so if you're interested in what Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and other companies like how they're doing, then this was a big week for you. It was a big week for the stock market. Some did well, some not so well. But what do you need to look out for? First of all, there's two elements of an earnings report, the quantitative element and the qualitative. The quantitative obviously are the numbers. So you have, how much money did they make, their earnings and their profit? Did they beat expectations? Did they do better than the street expected? Not as well, all those types of things. So there's the things to look out for. And on the qualitative side, companies will make forward-thinking statements about their businesses, what they expect, and analysts will reflect and react to that also. So this has a huge impact on the stock market, both the NASDAQ and the Dow, and how things are going to go. And everybody looks out for these very, very carefully. So this is one thing to look out for, on a week-to-week basis, earnings reports. On Tuesday, the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, spoke at their GTC conference, which is a conference about AI happenings and things that are going on in the industry and with the company. They do it twice a year. This year was in Washington, D.C. And he speaks about topics related to artificial intelligence. Some of the key ones were this time, what's going on with Blackwell and some of their other new product lines, some of the partnerships and alliances they're making. And they announced that they're making many chips in Arizona, which was of interest to many. On Wednesday, we had the actual earnings release, but there was also a Fed rate cut. So Chairman Powell and his crew meet 10 times a year, the FOMC, and they come out with their meeting minutes and their decision on a rate cut. This is hugely influential to the economy. This is not an economics podcast, but they look at inflation rates, they look at unemployment, they're striving to increase gross domestic product. It's very challenging to balance those three, but there have been two 25-point rate cuts, 25 basis point rate cuts in the last two meetings. So this is quite significant. He happened to announce that there may or may not be a rate cut in December, which was a touch disappointing to the market. So that's another thing to look out for. And lastly, on Thursday, some other information was happening. This time it was the president, and he is traveling to meet the president of China and to discuss tariffs. This is hugely impactful to inflation and our prices and our supply chain. And so, as I'm sure you know, tariff meetings and so forth have been ongoing for many, many months, and this was yet another significant element. So I hope you enjoyed this quick podcast, and if you have any further questions, please be in touch.